So much outpouring of love for people who are serving in the Middle East?
Well, I think honestly what it comes down to is the service members themselves. As those veterans, the men and women, the family members that came back from Vietnam and other wars that had to deal with that, had to go through that, they've spoken up. They've essentially over time have educated America and educated them on how to separate, their political views from the actual individual that makes the sacrifice for this country when the country needs individuals to make that sacrifice. And I think that's the biggest thing. And so when you talk about some of the gaps that existed, the biggest one being the support for our service members, that gap for the most part has been closed because of those individuals in past wars that have spoken up. Now it's important for us as current service members to continue to speak up to the gaps that exist over time to be able to close those gaps for the next generation, for the next wave of service members that are going to be, coming through our military.
And does the average man and woman need to come down hard on their Congress people and say, hey, free up some more money for the Veterans Administration?
Absolutely. I think, we've been there. We've done that. We know what we're going through. I mean, we can speak to that. And I think that, I think what you do see, I have a great friend of mine who runs a nonprofit, actually the founder, executive director of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. And he has hundreds of thousands of members from around the country that have served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he teaches them, and essentially they go to DC one time a year and they call this movement Storm the Hill, and they go and they meet with congressmen and senators, and then they encourage them, they teach these service members how to go back to their respective communities and meet with the mayor or meet with the governor or meet with whoever it is in their community, in their state. So I think we do need to have more service members. Don't leave it up just to me, in my platform that I have. It's important for all of us to do this together. I was taught a strategic, method when I was in the Army, when I was in the infantry, is how this term called flanking. And essentially what that means is the line of individuals, stretching all the way out, as many guys as you have. And essentially you just flank the enemy. The enemy sees you coming straight on, but they don't realize there's more guys coming from the side. And eventually you beat the enemy, defuse it. And I think that's what we need. We need more guys that are stretching out, that are going to step up and create this line that whatever the enemy may be, whether it's suicide, which is a big issue, whether it's the VA backlog that exists, which is a very big issue, all the other issues, unemployment, we need to have more guys out there, men and women and family members speaking up, and essentially over time we defeat the enemy and we close this gap.
Third and final question for me. Recruit training or rehearsing for a reality show?
Absolutely, 100%. Now, Karina's not going to be happy about this. She's been trying to get me to say this for 2.5 years since I was on the show, but definitely basic training, because at least with Karina, she was prettier than my drill sergeant. So even if she was tough on me, she was prettier. So it made it a little bit easier. When you have a drill sergeant that is in your face and he's spitting in your face and he's giving you orders or chewing you out for whatever thing you did that was completely wrong, he's not the breath, the look, it just doesn't work. The beard. But when Karina's doing it, it's okay. She's a pretty girl, so she can get away with that. Thank you very much, Alan. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Now, I know it's easy for people to see the physical scars from war.
Yeah.
Have you personally been affected by any mental PTSD, anything like that?
I've been very blessed. And people are shocked when I can even say that word, use that word, when you can see what you see on my body. But I have been very blessed that I don't have to deal with the internal scars, which, and I think in a lot of ways, are more difficult to recover from and more difficult to heal in a lot of ways. What I have learned, what I've learned that has helped me is that over the last 11 years, I have talked so much about what has happened to me. I have not necessarily held back in a lot of ways, whether it was on the national platform, whether it's been just in the community, whether it's been with a couple of friends, or whether it's been with complete strangers. I have shared my story. I have talked about the things that I've seen, talked about the things that have happened to me, talked about the recovery process. So when I start telling you about the day that I was injured on the 5th of April of 2003, I tell the story no different than if I tell you last night I flew into DC and I just got in my car and I got to the hotel and I went to bed. I talk to you as if it was just another day, it was just another thing in my life, another routine, because that's how comfortable I've become with it. And I think that's it's an important lesson that we got to continue to kind of push with our service members, is get over the stigma, not just in our military community, but in society in general. We have this stigma of where if you go and you talk to a licensed professional, if you go and talk to somebody, that's essentially a sign of weakness. You're crazy. That's the place that we kind of go to as a society. And we had to start kind of being more aware and kind of more accepting of people that, you know, need to talk about certain things, encourage people to talk about certain things. These service members, you know, they're JR at one point, they're JR Martinez, but then they go to basic training, they get to the units, and they're no longer JR Martinez, they become soldier, they become Marine, they become airman, they become sailor, they become Coast Guard, they become, you know, part of the military. They're no longer JR Martinez. They go off and they do whatever that country asks of them. When they come back, you're expected to just go back to being JR, and it's like, that's kind of a hard transition, man, when I've lost JR for a long period of time, and now you would just want me to go back. What helps is encouraging these men and these women and these families to talk about their experiences, to understand, you know, to say, listen, we know that you're human, you're not a superhero, and there's going to be things, no matter who you are, no matter how strong you are, it's going to affect you, and we have to start dealing with those things, because what happens over time is that you have these guys that are trying to travel throughout life on this plane, but they're carrying too much luggage. And you know, when you travel these days, you know, you got to pack properly, because if you try to bring too much luggage and it's over the weight, they're going to charge you for that. And you may not be able to take off because it's going to weigh the plane down. You may not be able to reach the new destination. So it's an interesting kind of concept and analogy of where we have to start encouraging these guys to kind of drop off that luggage, to kind of understanding there's certain things you got to leave behind, even though you really want to take those pair of shoes, even though you want to take those pair of shorts, even though you want to take that shirt, you got to start learning how to leave that behind in order to kind of reach your new destination.
How would you be different if this had not happened to you? How has it changed you?
Oh, wow.
I
I would have been in a lot of trouble, I think. I mean, my personality, I don't necessarily, I like to question. I like to question, and not question to be disrespectful, but just to question to understand. That's always been my personality. And in the Army, I remember there was plenty of times where I would question my superiors, not to be, and you know, you got to know your place. There's no room for that in the military. So I believe that I would have been, I'm 30 years old. I think I would have been a 30-year-old private still. I think there would have been a couple of times where I would have been just demoted. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, you know, trust me, I've asked myself that question in the last 11 years. Where would my life be if this wouldn't have happened to me? Simple enough. Where would my life be if I wouldn't have made the choice, or consistently made the choice to survive and become a survivor and become what I am today? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I had the thought process I was going to be in the Army, make it a career. But maybe, like a lot of guys, you know, maybe I would have done 2 or 3 tours. Maybe I would have been like one of those guys, unfortunately, comes back home and is dealing with PTSD. Maybe I would have been killed. Maybe I would still be in the Army. Maybe I would be tired of it and I would get out. Who knows? I really have no clue. And it's an interesting question, and it's one of those things, it's, you know, it's if you're driving down the road and you're going, let's say, home, you know, if you can see a street, you say, well, I wonder if I go down this street where it would lead me. You can turn around and go back and find out, you know, and see where that road would lead you to. But I can't really do that in life. You know, I can't go back to the 5th of April of 2003 and right before we ran over the bomb say, whoa, let me see, you know, where my life would end up if I didn't hit this bomb first and choose my route. That's why life is kind of, it's you see people that are survivors and you applaud them, you know, whether they're service members, whether they're individuals that overcome cancer, whether it's the economy they're fighting through, whether it's a loss of a love, a friend, whatever it may be. When people are survivors, you applaud them, because it's really tough to sometimes just kind of take what you're given and, you know, control it and say, I can't control what happened, but I can control essentially what's going to happen from this point on.
Now, if you could go back and speak to your younger self before you joined the military, what would you tell him?
I would tell myself to buckle down in school and focus on academics. I focused more on being a football player and then being on everybody's friend, you know, which is not necessarily, I guess, a bad thing, you know, but I didn't necessarily understand the concepts of academics. You know, my background, my family's from Central America. I'm the first one to be born in this country. The education level that my mother received was equivalent to 3rd grade in the United States, because in El Salvador, she at a very young age was forced to go to work at an early age, to provide, to help. And so my mom was so focused on, when she used the term, give me what she never had, it was, I mean, just the simple things of just clothes, which to her were major things, clothes, shoes. You know, if I wanted a video game or something from time to time, she would supply those things if she could. She didn't really understand, even though she encouraged me to focus in school, but she didn't really understand the full importance. So I didn't necessarily have that kind of pressure at home to, you know, stick with academics. And I mean, me being a young kid, I didn't really realize how algebra was going to help me on the football field. But I think that would be the biggest thing that I would tell myself is it's important in life to be able to take all the steps proper in order to give yourself options. That's the greatest thing that we can do for ourselves is give ourselves options. And if a young kid can understand the importance of giving himself options instead of saying, well, when I graduate, maybe all I have is to get a job down the street locally in my hometown, or maybe the military, or maybe this, give yourself options. I'm not saying the military is not a way to go for individuals. I'm not the first person that's going to say, don't go to the military. I'm not the first person to say, don't go to the military. I'm just going to tell you, if you're considering that avenue, to really look at the big picture and really look at and understand the job and understand how that training that you're going to receive while in the military, whether it's for a year, whether it's for 20 years, how it can help you when you get out of the military. Think ahead, because that's a big issue when you talk about our service members' unemployment. So I would definitely focus on school a little bit more.
Oh, you have a 2-year-old?
I do. Today is her birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Yes.
What's her name?
Yeah, Lauren Annabelle. We call her Belle, B-E-L-L-E. But today is her birthday. So she doesn't really understand, that it's her birthday, but when I said to her this morning, when I talked to her and I FaceTime her, I was like, it's your birthday! I'd make it so exciting.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, it's my birthday! And she doesn't really know.
How has it changed you having a child? And what do you want for her?
You know what it does? For me, what it's done having a child is that, my life ever since I was injured has been go, go, go. Like, you accomplish something, and then you move on to the next task and you try to conquer whatever else is that you're trying to conquer. Never really getting to fully appreciate what you just accomplished, the goal that you just achieved. With a child, what it's done is that you really have to appreciate, especially at this time, you really have to appreciate every single moment, because they change and they grow so fast that before you know it, she's 2 years old. When to me, it's just, I just remember the doctor holding her up by one leg as if she was like a dead chicken, and here she is, she's 2 years old. So, yeah, so it slowed me down and allowed me to really appreciate those moments. And when I'm with her, because I'm traveling constantly, but when I'm with her, to really be with her 100%.
So any future plans? Like, what's next for you?
Well, obviously the entertainment industry is a big part of my life, and so acting is something that I worked on a series. We're on hiatus right now. I worked on a series called SAFE, SAF3, the end of last year. It airs on the CW network currently, and acting is something I enjoy doing. Hosting is something I'm kind of finding myself doing a little bit more here and there, and I've been doing motivational speaking for a very long time. Way before the entertainment industry, I was doing it, not on the scale that I'm doing it on now, but I was still doing it. And essentially what that means is that I've been traveling a lot for the last 10 and a half years. And I've gotten to the point where I'm a little tired. I'm a little exhausted. It's tough being, on the road 250 days, 300 days out of the year. It's really difficult doing that, not really having consistency and essentially a home base. So I'm looking to kind of focus more on entertainment-related opportunities now, take a break from the speaking market, just so that way, if the entertainment field says, hey, listen, we need you to be in this city for 2 weeks or a month, that's a lot better than what I'm doing right now, so I'll take that. So I have this idea of creating shows. I mean, I'm really kind of fully involved in the entertainment industry right now, and it's something I'm really trying to pursue. I'm trying to show people different elements and the different layers that I have to me versus kind of what people have come to know. Sorry.
Do you think you're creating more diversity? Your parents, like my sister says, he's hot.
Yeah.
Well,
thank
she did. My sister's hot too. But do you feel like you're making more acceptance of people who look
Listen,
different?
I don't care who you are. Everybody in this country, everybody in this world has an insecurity about something. It could be your left toe, that something about it just you don't feel comfortable with it. And every time as a woman you put on heels, or as a man you put on flip-flops, that one toe just kind of throws you off. He's looking at his toes now because he's thinking about it. But, everybody has an insecurity.
Sure.
Now, when you have the scars that I have on my body, I realize the power that my scars have. And so for me, I represent every single person that has an insecurity, because Lord knows I've had plenty of insecurities ever since my injury, but I have faced those things. When you have, for example, let's say a People magazine listed me as one of the sexiest men alive, that to me is not, it's nice for me to hear that, but I understand more importantly that that's going to do more for society. That's going to do more for the people that have those insecurities, because they're going to be able to say, wow, you know, the entertainment industry is so embracing of his scars and who he is. They don't even see it anymore. They see him just as a regular person. Then over time, people start seeing me as a regular person. Then over time, they start seeing whoever it is in their community that may have some kind of quote unquote, I don't like this word, but disability or disfigurement, and look at them as just a regular person, and get to look at them as face value versus kind of just a quick judgment, which is what the society is kind of based on. Is we judge quickly based on looks, judge quickly based on, you know, dress and the type of brand that you wear, car you drive, or where you live, on what side of the tracks you grew up on. And I think we kind of get away from that. And I think that I'm a part, because I'm not going to say I'm the only one, but I'm a part of that movement, essentially just kind of educating America, educating the world to accept something completely different and still say, wow, it can still be something that's attractive. It can still be something that, you know, we enjoy.
All right.
We're good.
And tell your sister my number is 555. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. She's married with 2 little children.
I'll babysit. I didn't say why she needed to call me. I just said, no, let's take it together.
Okay. There you go. I gotcha.